You can't connect the dots looking forwards. You can only connect them looking backwards. And you just need to trust that the dots will connect in your future. Steve Jobs is the one who said that. I might have butchered it a little bit, but I seriously love that quote. And this might be a shorter video, but I just want to talk about how, like, whenever I start to feel a bit lost or I start to feel a bit worried or anxious about maybe where I'm headed or if what I'm working on is going to work out and if I'm going to get the results that I'm looking for or whatever else, like whenever I start to feel those things, this is a quote that I'll go back to and remind myself of because it's interesting how many times you can actually look back and see the dots connect. So that's exactly what I'm going to talk about real quick in this video. If you don't know me, I'm Logan Lesser, a national motocross racer, having won over 15 state championships and an amateur national championship. I'm an extreme sports athlete and ran a marketing agency for over 4 years, growing it to $30,000 a month. And while doing so, was able to travel the world living in Cape Town, South Africa, part-time throughout the past few years. And I've spent nearly $50,000 on mentors, coaches, courses, and education, learning from the best of the best in business, fitness, mindset, racing, and so on. Now I'm sharing what I've learned and growing my community, the Champion Protocol, linked in the description below. So it's funny how over the past like 5 years now that I've been kind of in the business space and running my business, because I ran an agency for the past like 4 years and basically started in business when I was 15. And it's interesting how there's been so many times, even recently, where I would try things or do things and they didn't end up working out. Like they just didn't. And then I just moved on to something else. But what's interesting is that once I kind of moved on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, like I made a mistake of jumping around from thing to thing way too much. However, that's not my main point here. Like I'm not saying that you should jump around from thing to thing. That's like a terrible idea. And that's what's held me back big time. But that's a topic for another video. What I'm more saying is that whenever I start to feel nervous and I'm kind of like, I don't really know if what I'm doing is going to work out or if this is the right thing to work on or whatever else, I basically just remind myself that I can't connect the dots looking forwards. I can only connect them looking backwards. And I just need to trust that the dots will connect in my future as they already have already. And I kind of added that little part, that little last part to the quote there, because it's interesting how many times I've seen where I will have worked on all these other things and I will have put like so much time and effort into something. And it didn't end up working out and becoming what I wanted it to. But by doing that thing, it led me on to the next thing that ended up working, which I wouldn't have gotten to if I didn't start with that initial thing that didn't work. Hopefully that makes sense. But basically, like that's what I've seen a lot with my business stuff and everything, is that in terms of like niches, for example, in my offer and like what I'm working on and so on, like I'll start in this particular field or this particular area or space and I'll like go all in on it and be working on it. But then eventually I actually end up over here in a completely different space. Like for example, a while ago, I originally started with making content and everything talking about fitness coaching, and like I was gonna do fitness coaching, and then I ended up talking about, instead of me being the fitness coach, helping fitness coaches grow their online business by using the strategies that I've used over the past like 4 years with my agency and my clients. But now I'm instead specifically targeting athletes and racers, talking about the mentality that it takes in order to race at the highest level and get in the zone. Like these topics could not be any more different. Like what the hell? But what's interesting is that by going through all of this, I figured out like what I like and what I don't like and what I want to do and what I don't want to do. And eventually all roads lead home, which my home has always been like motocross and racing and stuff. So all roads kind of led home, which is basically doing what I really like doing and talking about the things that I really like talking about, and also talking about what I have the most credibility in. Because what I've done my whole life and what I've done the most of and had the most success with is racing. Like I've won like upwards of 15 state championships, an amateur national championship. I placed top 10 and top 5 at numerous of the top amateur nationals in the country, such as Loretta Lynn's, Minios, and so on. Like I've got a lot of credibility in this space, and I also love it. Like I love racing, I love motocross, but more specifically, I love the mindset and mentality that it takes in order to perform at the highest level, not only at the races, but also in training. And that's something that I dealt with and struggled with for years. Like it took me until literally just, it's probably like 3-4 years ago. I think it was like 3 years ago. Yeah, because I think it was 2021. is when I really was able to figure it out. And that's when I really started focusing on my mindset. And I was working with a mindset coach, and I was like studying and watching countless YouTube videos. And it also helped that I was working on my business, because I was watching a lot of Alex Hormozy videos where he was talking about mindset stuff when it comes to business and kind of how you approach it there. And then I was able to kind of connect the dots with the business mindset side of things and kind of connect it with racing and be like, you know what, this same concept could apply here to help me improve with my racing, or to help me improve with my focus, or whatever else. So overall, like, I'm just a mindset nerd, you could say, when it comes to that. And I just love it, because I also realized that, or like I saw that after I figured out my mindset and got my shit in order when it came to that, like my results with racing and everything went through the roof. Like I went from competing for top 10, top 15 at the races, and I'd kick ass in practice, but I just could not show up at the race. Once I figured this out, I was able to actually go to the race and perform just as well, if not better, than I did in practice. And that's what let me start competing at the top 5, top 3 position level, even at some of the like top races, like top nationals in the country. So like regardless, that's what I figured out. But over time, like it took me a long time to get there and realize this is kind of what I wanted to do. But I wouldn't have gotten there if it wasn't for all these other things. So I almost look at these other things as like, these are the dots that needed to connect. And I kind of had to do this and learn little aspects from each thing. Because that's another thing. Like none of these were failures, and none of these were things that like I quit or failed or whatever. Like I learned something from every experience, and that has all helped me not only get to here, but also helping me build this, you know? So overall, like the dots have connected in order to get me to this point. So that's like the most recent example, but I've had numerous times in the past where like I'd think about where I'm at and kind of how things have led to this particular point. And I was like, like in the moment, I was so concerned about whether that stuff that I was working on was going to work or not. But what's interesting is that whether or not it did, those were simply just going to be stepping stones to get me to where I eventually am now, or just right now, this is a stepping stone to get me to where I'm eventually going to be. It's like everything is really just a stepping stone, and it's the dots that are going to be connecting in order to get you to where you want to be in the future. And the only way to connect the dots is by looking backwards, just like I did just now. Like I can't connect the dots looking forwards because I don't know what the hell the dots are going to be in the future, you know? So I think the important lesson here, and I'm going to summarize it all right now and end this off, is that instead of like being so concerned and worried about where you're going and what you're doing, I want to be careful with how I say this, because I don't want to like put off the wrong message, because I think it's very important to be focused on where you're headed and everything. I'm more saying, instead of being like so concerned about whether or not what you're working on right now is the right thing and is perfect, because most likely it's never going to be, the best thing you can probably do is do whatever you truly believe is the best thing for you to do right now, and go all in on it and give it everything you got, and just trust that the dots will connect in the future to get you to where you want to go, even if this particular thing doesn't end up being the right thing, because everything is going to have a lesson and experiences that come from it, which is going to lead you to what eventually gets you to your overall vision and dream of or whatever your dream is for the future, you know? So hopefully that makes sense. But overall, just remember the quote by Steve Jobs of, you can't connect the dots looking forwards, you can only connect them looking backwards, and you just have to trust that the dots will connect in your future. So anyway, I'll leave you with that. If you liked the video and it made sense and you got any value, then feel free to subscribe. Check out some of my other videos. Also check out the Champion Protocol linked in the description below. Super killer in there, especially if you're an athlete. Definitely check that out. There's a lot of really good information, great community in there that can help you grow and get better and everything, especially the mindset stuff that I talked about before. But anyway, with that being said, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.